Good afternoon. I'm just here to introduce, and I've had the advantage of having had a teach-in on this company, and of course it's on a subject that actually none of us like addressing. But the plain fact is that the population has expanded so enormously like that, and land doesn't expand. And would you believe it, like everything else in health, we're running out of plots to get buried. It's a slightly morbid subject because it isn't. It's a subject that's we've all got to talk about. We talk about insurance, we talk about life policies, and to me it's actually a really interesting investment because you've got the security of the land, you've got plot prices that almost certainly have to go up in value because of the expanding population, the aging population, etc., etc. And I'm convinced. I'll pass over to you. Good luck.
Thank you, Nigel. Appreciate that. I've got a 20-minute slot this afternoon, but it's probably not going to take quite that long. As you can tell by what Nigel's just pointed out, it's not. It's a product and it's an opportunity that everybody needs within the UK, or everybody needs in the world at some point in their life. At Harley Investments, Harley Consortium is a consortium of companies that we opened a couple of years ago, and we've been able to expand based upon the great product that we've got and the way we've designed our business structure. So there's a number of companies that sit within that consortium. We work very closely with a company called Memorial Gardens as well, which is one of our partners, and they essentially own the assets that I'm going to talk to you about shortly. I can just quickly flick through some of the companies that are in the consortium. At Harley Consortium, we focus on asset-backed investments, so things that have a clear exit strategy, but also have a need. So, things like property, car parks, and our biggest and exciting product at this moment in time is cemeteries. We currently own two cemeteries in London. One in Essex, which is 86 acres, and we also own a 33-acre site in Barnet, both with planning permission and are ready to be developed into a cemetery. As you can see, and as Nigel pointed out as well, the population is growing at a fast pace, and people are living longer. So there's a number of stresses that are put onto us in the UK, not just roads and healthcare and schooling and so on, but it's a massive issue for us within the in the cemetery business. And you've probably all seen over the last few years, there's been a number of press releases that have pointed out that space is running out, costs are increasing, and in fact some pundits have pointed out that by 2021 there'll be no more plots available, especially in the London locations. In fact, the majority of the boroughs within the London locations are either full, problematic or critical, so they're finding themselves after being buried up to 40 miles away from where their hometown is. Now, what's an interesting fact is in the UK, 61% of the population choose to be buried over cremated, which is primarily driven by the religious groups. So they have to be part of their faith. Obviously, Muslim populations, Jewish populations, Turkish populations are continuing to grow. So these stats are based upon those religious groups. As I mentioned earlier, some of the press releases that continue to be released at this moment in time only does our business great credit. There's Julie Rugg from the University of York. She's pointed out the situation is desperate, and a number of other points like space, burial, cemetery space shorter, sends burial prices higher. All these sort of factors are massive for our business. Now, what is actually staggering, and it is a massive concern, is the cost of burial prices continue to rise. And there's actually a debt situation now within the UK of 147 million. So people, because of the cost of funerals, and they're not pre-booking their funerals, and they're waiting for people to die, and then they're going to book their funerals, they have to take finance to be able to fund the actual service and their plot. As you can see, by this graph, demonstrated by this graph, that the costs are continuing to grow. So every year it's grown year on year. Now, it's the only industry that's shown a growth even through recessions, and it continues to grow. So it's recession-proof. It's a need. Because our investment is asset-backed, Brexit hasn't had any impact on us at all, and it won't do, which again is a great factor. Let's talk about the solution that we work on at Harley Consortium and Memorial Gardens. We have a passion that we want to always look at the exit before we start the investment process. So we look at each individual area and look at demographics and stats and numbers for the amount that's needed in those locations. So what we look to do is we look to acquire sites. There's a heavy planning process, and 2 of our sites now have full planning, and those will be a solution to a crisis, to a problem in the London boroughs. We currently have a growth plan, and that will show that we've already got a number of options on other sites, which we have to go through a heavy planning process, environmentals and water check. And we were talking about it earlier. There's a heavy. It's not like going for planning on a housing development. It's very more detailed, and there's a lot more to it. This is one of our sites in Raynham, in Essex. If you look at the site, at the beginning of the journey, we decided to sell a cemetery as a cemetery. But when you actually do a bit more research, and we've been doing this for a number of years, so there's not a lot we don't know about this business. We decided to split the site into 4 cemeteries, because especially in the Essex location and also our Barnet location, there's a high Muslim population. They require their own entrance, their own facilities, their own chapel, and also a wall to separate from other religious groups. We also have a high Jewish group, so that'll be another section. We then have in Essex a high Turkish population, and then there's a Christian and Catholic section. There's also a plan that we start in the middle of May, which we're going to do crypts around the perimeter of the site, which again are showing massive success in Italy and different countries. We've currently secured a number of pre-need, is what we call them, so they're essentially an end user in the future, but they're pre-booking their plots. We've already done deals with Jewish groups, synagogues. We've also done deals with some Muslim populations. So we're now at development stage with the site. They'll then start parting with their funds because they've secured X amount of acres, which again, as an investment, we've already got the exit lined up. So it gives our investors a lot more, not just, it gives them the belief that this exit will pay the funds that are there. It's very exciting. If we look at the investment itself, and there's a number of points you look for as an investment, and you'll look at the key things is what's your security, what's your sort of time frame that you want to be in, and what would your return look like. Well, our investment, you can invest as little as just over 10k. You have a security which is what's called an ERB, so you actually own a certificate for those plots that you have purchased, all done via lawyers and done in a professional contractual manner. We then will give you up to a 36% return on your investment within a 3-year process. Again, that's all part of our exit strategy and groups and so on. As a company, we've already got a proven record. In the first 12 months of trading, we sold over 4,000 plots at our Rainham site, which generated just under £11 million worth of revenue. So we're already seeing a success story within our business. Thank you very much for today, for listening to my presentation on the joys of cemeteries. If you want any questions answered, please talk to some of our sales guys, and also we're at stand 117. Okay, thank you very much.